The big question on the minds of the market right now, does this cement the idea of a 75-point basis hike in the Fed's next meeting? And does this move all the talk about a pause or a pivot off the table?
I don't think it moves everything off the table. I think it does cement the 75 basis points. I think that was in there no matter what. And we know that the Fed's going to act aggressively. So in terms of a pause or a pivot, we know that they're going to be data dependent. And I think unlike almost everyone else out there, I actually give the Fed a lot of credit. I give them a lot of credit for using jawboning as an incredibly useful tool. And I think a lot of work's done. So I think they're going to do 75 now, but then I think we just need to watch what data they get. And I don't even really like the word pivot, because that makes us all think that it's just a turn on your tail and run in the other direction. But I think that they can move away or soften, or there's just a lot that they can do. So I think they're still open for a shift. And yeah, I think 75 basis points is in the cards.
So it's like a famous movie quote. You're saying there's still a chance. All right, Jim, I'm going to come over to you. I mean, a lot of people are thinking pause, pivot, off the table. This is cementing it. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. The 3 Ps, pause, put, pivot, forget them. I forgot them a long time ago. This is a question of how much more raising are they going to do. And I think the way you've got to look at this, and I think Jenny alluded to this, is, what matters more than anything is what inflation is doing. I don't think we can really expect a benign inflation print next week, simply because owner equivalent rent is such a big part of it. It's a lagging indicator. I mean, that's just a known quotient. But we also see in the Case-Shiller indications from last week that housing prices themselves are rolling over, and it's likely that rent is going to come down. What this means is time. It takes time. Now, look, Frank, when I go forward 2 months from now to the end of the year, 2 months, not very long, here's the following things that are likely to have happened. Let's say the Fed funds futures market is right. You've got another 125 basis points of tightening. You're somewhere between 4.25 and 4.5 on the Fed funds rate. That could be all she wrote. Could be. Now, I know the Fed's talking about going further, but it could be all she wrote. We're going to have 2 more inflation reports, actually probably 3 by that point in time. And you'll be seeing definitively at that point in time, I believe, that inflation has peaked. The election's going to be downstream of us. Third quarter earnings are going to be downstream of us. The point that I'm driving at is 2 months from now, 2.5 months from now, you're going to have a heck of a lot more clarity than you have right now. Right now, we're twisting in the wind. What's the Fed going to do? What's earnings going to do? What's inflation going to do? I can sit tight for 2 months and let events unfold.
All right, we're just in the wind about a few things, but a couple of things we do know, Joe. We know wages increased 5% year over year in this jobs report. We know oil's moved up about $7 a barrel just over the last week after those OPEC cuts. So we got some pretty definitive data on 2 things that are very inflationary. So in your mind, pause, pivot, just off the table?
So let me ask you, if the Federal Reserve Monday morning were to announce an emergency rate hike of 150 basis points, and at the end of that statement, they said, we're going to pause until March of 2023. The market would probably go down on Monday. But guess what? By the end of the week, I think the market would be higher, because the market just wants to get this over with already. The market has already priced in the certainty of 75 basis points in November. The Federal Reserve has told us what they're going to do. Now, my personal opinion, which I've said on air, is that, okay, give us another 125 to 150 basis point and stop no matter where inflation is, because maybe what you're actually administering is not working and bringing down inflation, and we got to look to the supply side. We don't need to break everything in the process. So I'm a little perplexed by the emotional nature, but it's consistent with the way the market usually is. The market is an emotional mechanism, but I'm not really sure what we heard today changes anything from what we already knew. They were going to raise 125 to 150 basis points. I just wish we'd get it over with already.
Joe, I'd love it. You take the 2.5 months I was just talking about and compress it to next Monday. I'm all for it.
I third the motion.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm all for it.
Well, we have a quorum here. Unfortunately, the Fed makes the decision.
It's almost as if you have a rotted tooth, and you go to the dentist, and the dentist says, come back next week. I'll pull it a little. I'm not going to pull it all the way out. Come back next week. Just pull the tooth out already.